on page 11 of the introduction, actually page 10 of the introduction, it states, of the approximately 5,000 Greek manuscripts of all or part of the New Testament that are known today, no two agree exactly in all particulars. Confronted by a mass of conflicting.
Now, notice, Sam. He said exactly what you already said. If you have different people copying the entire Bible, they're not going to make the same mistakes, and therefore they're not going to agree on everything. But that you can spot when one person makes a mistake because other people do not make that same mistake. You already pointed that out, and then he's quoting this. He's quoting this as the refutation to prove that the Bible's just so messed up you can't know what you're talking about. All right, let's go ahead and finish this.
Editors must decide which variants deserve to be included in the text and which should be relegated to the apparatus. In other words, Bruce Metzger is saying that the editors today in the 21st century decide as to what may go to the text of the New Testament. Men in the 21st century decide, choosing from thousands of variant readings of the New Testament as to what may be included in the text. Although, and I continue, although at first it may seem to be a hopeless task amid so many thousands of variant readings to sort out those that should be regarded as original, textual scholars have developed certain generally acknowledged criteria of evaluation. These considerations depend, it will be seen, upon probabilities, and sometimes the textual critic must weigh one set of probabilities against another.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, think about this. Think about. I have to regard him as being deceptive here. There's no other way, Sam. If he's read anything these guys have said, he knows what they mean. He represents it to Muslims like this. Can you imagine people in the 21st century deciding what the original said and what's supposed to be in there? Oh my goodness, how is this even possible? Guys, let us run you through the process again, right? People, for century after century after century after century, until the inventing of the printing press, are copying these things by hand, right? You're copying things by hand, you end up making mistakes. You can occasionally have someone who says, I think it could be written better this way. You do have that happen, right? You can spot those things, right? If you have thousands of manuscripts, you can spot, oh, here's where someone changed something. You can spot it, right? So you have people in the 21st century, because keep in mind, if you're talking about 1,000 years ago, people would have known about the manuscripts that they have right there with them. They don't know about manuscripts that are still, inside the wall of a church or something like that. Right now, scholars in the 21st century have a giant mass of manuscripts, and they can date these manuscripts to know when they come from, and they can sit back and say, here are the rules of how textual criticism works, and they can go through the manuscripts and say, aha, we know that this change right here was introduced in the 11th century. Doesn't look like that's original, so let's go over here, right? They can do this, and Adnan acts like these guys are just, we're just picking and choosing, blah, 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 blah. No, they have principles of textual criticism. These are the exact same principles you would use with the manuscripts of any books if you had a ton of manuscripts. It's the exact same method that would be used of Quran manuscripts if Muslims did that sort of thing and didn't just burn everything. And Adnan's represented, he makes it sound like it's this huge problem. Right? Again, nothing is changing any fundamental Christian doctrine. The vast majority of variants are completely inconsequential. Either what you have, the two main categories you have, they're either not viable, meaning there's no way this reading goes back to an original because it appeared so late. They have not viable, or they don't change the meaning of the text. Tons of variants, you couldn't even translate them because that's how meaningless they're, like again, spelling differences and so on. So he basically said, how could guys in the 21st century do this? Guys in the 21st century have more manuscripts than ever before. And in Christianity, there's an entire science of examining these manuscripts and getting to the originals. Muslims aren't doing that because they go around lying about their book being perfectly preserved, and historically they burn all their manuscripts. And then they claim that they're... My goodness. Yeah. Guys, we could do that, right? We could take one Bible manuscript, burn everything else, and they say, you see, there's only one Bible. The only problem is that would be massively deceptive, and we're not like that. Your guys were like that. Your rightly guided caliph was like that. Anyway, all right. Any thoughts, Sam?
Let me just add, number one, I want you guys to remember the difference between the transmission of the Quran and the Bible. We mentioned this is according to their own sources. Their own sources testify Uthman purged, burned Quran copies produced by the companions of Muhammad, and not everyone was in agreement. But let's put that aside. He purged and burned them, and he standardized what he felt the Quran actually should look like. Now, Muslims will say, well, that was a faithful replica of Muhammad passed. Okay, let's put that aside. Okay. In Christianity, this is something admitted by scholars across the board, even those who are not Christians. When the books of the New Testament were written, they were being copied right away. And these copies were being sent to various locations so that the widespread distribution of the copies of the New Testament, keep this in mind, the widespread distribution of the copies of the New Testament made it impossible for one individual or a group of individuals to collect all these copies and then corrupt them in a fashion that suited what they believed, and then produce copies from their corrupted editorial patchwork and destroy the evidence. That's what Uthman did. That's not what Christians did. So God made sure that from the beginning, the books of the Bible would be copied and would be distributed over the then known world so that no one person or group could monopolize the copies of the Bible, which is why, as we speak today, we have about 5,300 copies. Some would say 5,900, right, depending on how you count the manuscripts. Of the New Testament books in Greek, we have about nearly 10,000 copies of the books of the Bible, specifically New Testament, in Latin. And then we have various languages in which the books of the Bible were translated, so that anywhere from 25,000 to 30,000 copies of the books of the Bible, specifically the New Testament, in existence in various languages, found in different places, showing the impossibility of wholesale corruption, guaranteeing that what was originally written is there, preserved, and leads me to the second point. Second point. Pick up a copy of John written in the 2nd century, and pick up a copy of John in the 9th century, and I guarantee you're going to get the same theology, the same Father, the same Jesus, the same Spirit, the same salvation. No copy of John in any century is going to give you Islam or Manichaeism or Gnosticism. It's going to give you the historic Orthodox Christian faith, because the differences are inconsequential, and you can know what the text is saying, even though there may be a variant reading. And just to piggyback from what David said, did you know that one of the major sources of variant readings is the definite article the? Many people don't know that in Greek, proper names often have definite articles attached to them. For example, in Greek, you would have David's name preceded with the definite article. The David, the Sam, the John. And so some copies you'll have a verse saying the Jesus and the Peter. Another copy says Jesus and Peter. Now, for the life of me, how does that change the meaning of the text? Just because one copy has the definite article before Jesus' name and another copy doesn't have the definite article, because that doesn't even show up in English, because in English we don't put definite articles before proper names. And that's one of the major variant readings in the manuscript tradition. And then finally, David, maybe you can help me, because you had a talk with Hatun. Isn't it true that the current Arabic Qurans are based on a 1924 edition of the Arabic Quran that was standardized by Al-Azhar in Cairo, Egypt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they still haven't been able to stop all the different variations.
So wait, you're saying, guys, look at the irony. The Arabic Quran that you read today as part of your English translation is based off of what a scholar or a group of scholars in 1924 decided to standardize, and it doesn't agree in every single place with the extant manuscripts of the Arabic Quran. And this guy has the audacity to call into question the New Testament.
Yep. All right, so guys, notice, if you wanted to know what the original reading of the Quran was, you'd have to take all available Quran manuscripts and do textual criticism, but that's exactly what Muslims make fun of. They make fun of that. That's why you can't do it, right? They think it's silly and ridiculous. And then you'd have to have 21st century guys deciding what the Quran said. So anyway, the takeaway from what Sam just said there, guys, what Muslims think that Christians sat down and corrupted our scriptures and decided they wanted to insert all these doctrines. No Christian has ever been in a position to do that. You could sit down there and change your manuscript if you wanted. No Christian has ever been in a position to affect all copies of the gospel. In other words, you're sitting there, if you're sitting there, you're a Christian, you're in Alexandria, and you're trying to make I'm gonna add some my own doctrines right there. That wouldn't change copies in the Middle East. That wouldn't change copies in Europe. It's not going to change all those copies. You cannot do it. You are in no position. They did not have a central authority that was even capable of doing something like that. In Islam, you did, and that's exactly what they did. Everyone hand over your copies of the Quran. We're going to burn them all, and then you're going to take this one that I've decided you need to take. And Muslims have no problem with that, mostly because they don't know it. But then they do have a problem with Christians who were never in a position to be able to do that. This is an amazing religion. All right, well.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, can I read this one comment? Because this was hilarious. By Doomslayer, he said, Adnan was so smart that he reversed his argument on himself. Genius. Mm-hmm. I love that. That summed it up perfectly. Let's repeat.
Yeah, no. I mean, talk on this issue as I'm pulling up the source. The question was about the burning of the Quran. Actually, I have it right now.
Volume 6 of the Quran.
Yeah.
Volume 6, number 50, not the Quran. Bukhari, Volume 6, number 509. Bukhari, Volume 6, number 509, and then 510. Volume 6, number 510. 509 tells us that Abu Bakr commissioned Zayd to compile the Quran, and there were two verses missing until they found it with Khuzaima al-Ansari. Then Volume 6, number 510 in the old numbering. Volume 6, number 510.
Yeah, I've got the new.
You want to read it? Go ahead.
No, I've got the new numbering here, and I'll tell him where he can download this in case he wants it. So this is number 4987. Oh, so anyway, the question was, Jason Lippert said, is there a source I can cite for the burning of Quran manuscripts? Keep up the good work. Yes, there is indeed. And we will take a look at these if I have the technology here. Share screen, and all right, there we go. So this is Sahih al-Bukhari. If you want this edition, go to kalamullah.com. It has the same Darussalam edition that I'm using right now. So that is Kalam, K-A-L-A-M, Ullah, ULLAH.com, and you can download this same edition of Sahih al-Bukhari. Let's go ahead and read it. Narrated Anas bin Malik, Hudhaifa bin al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Sham and the people of Iraq were waging war to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. Hudhaifa was afraid of the people of Sham and Iraq, differences in the recitation of the Quran. So why are these people reciting the Quran differently? So he said to Uthman, O chief of the believers, save this nation before they differ about the book, the Quran, as Jews and the Christians did before them. So notice what he wants here. You've got to do something about these differences in the Quran. So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, send us the manuscript of the Quran so that we may compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscript to you. Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zayd ibn Thabit, Abdullah az-Zubair, Sa'id bin al-As, and Abdurrahman bin Harith bin Hisham to copy the original manuscript perfectly. But no, they made some additions to it. Uthman, let's see. Oops. Get over here. Uthman said to the three Qurayshi men, in case you disagree with Zayd bin Thabit on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of Quraysh as the Quran was revealed in their tongue. They did so, and when they had written many copies, Uthman returned the original manuscripts to Hafsa. Uthman sent to every Muslim province one copy of what they had copied and ordered that all the other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt. And there is no reason to burn all these alternatives if they all said 100%. The exact same thing.
Yep, 100%. 100%. So you guys see the source? Now, in the old versification, it's number 510, volume 6, Sahih Bukhari. And read the one before it. volume 6, 509. Read the one before. Read both of them. So we're not making it up. Their most authentic collection of narrations say Uthman purged the Qurans. And guys, let me emphasize the significance of this. He was not purging Qurans done by Joe Schmoes, done by nobodies. He was purging Qurans that were written down by the companions of Muhammad who learned the Quran directly from Muhammad. Just to mention two, you had Abdullah ibn Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b. These two men, Muhammad singled out 4 people to learn the Quran from, and 2 of the men were Abdullah ibn Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b. What did Uthman do to their Qurans? Destroyed them. By what authority did Uthman destroy copies of the Qurans written down from the memories of the 2 of the 4 that Muhammad himself said learned the Quran from them? In other words, if your prophet is telling you these are 2 of the 4 that you need to learn the Quran from, by golly, that means their Qurans are authoritative and should have been made the standard for all other Qurans. But what did Uthman do? Nah, you know what? Burn them. We're going to take the one that's with Hafsa that was actually compiled by Zayd ibn Thabit. Zayd ibn Thabit only became a Muslim when Muhammad went to Medina, whereas Abdullah ibn Masud was a Muslim in Mecca, and even said, Wallah, I learned over 70 surahs by heart before Zayd even became a Muslim. And I'm paraphrasing here. And what does Uthman say?
Yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead and quote Jamia Tirmidhi, number 3104, right? Where Abdullah ibn Masud, whom Muhammad said, if you want to learn the Quran from anyone, learn it from Ibn Masud. And then the order goes out for people to hand over their Qurans, to have them burned, and then only to copy the copy of Zayd ibn Thabit. Abdullah ibn Masud says, Jamia Tirmidhi 3104, O you Muslim people, avoid copying the Mus'haf and recitation of this man. By Allah, when I accepted Islam, he was but in the loins of a disbelieving man, meaning Zayd ibn Thabit. And it was regarding this that Abdullah ibn Masud said, O people of Iraq, keep the Musahif that are with you and conceal them. So the order goes out. The Musahif is a copy of the Quran. So the order goes out, burn all of those, and you only get to copy this one. Ibn Masud attacks it, says, don't copy that man's Quran. Hide your Qurans that you have with you. Don't copy his. Now, guys, if they're all the same, that would make no sense. Not one word of that makes any sense. So Islam's own sources. Now, Sam, could you imagine if we had stuff like this? If we had to deal with stuff like this, that Muslims would quote it. You see, this proves the corruption of their scriptures. This proves that it is a deception. This is all over their sources. This is all over their sources.
David,
and what do they say?
Shame on
Perfect preservation right down to the letter, man.
David, shame on you. You are attacking Muhammad and the Quran.
Just attacking Muhammad.
You should have talked about Bruce Metzger, Bart Ehrman. Shame on you, David. How dare you attack Quran and Muhammad? Yeah. See, you can't refute my devastating refutation of your challenge. Now face the east and repent.